A split-second decision made by his school principal about one student didn't just change a boy's future, it forever shattered the principal's own illusion of justice. Hello, friends! You are listening to The School Principal, Part 16, written by Jalal Al-e Ahmad.
2 days before the holiday, the report cards were ready and waiting for the principal's signature. At least 236 signatures. It would drag on until noon at the very least. Especially since I didn't have an easy, ministerial, or elaborate signature, nor was my hand smooth at this task. Throughout my entire tenure as principal, I had never signed a single register. Even before that, I had avoided signing school attendance registers as much as possible. I had seen many government dependents in other offices or among my colleagues practicing their signatures during idle moments, left and right on anything that came within their reach. The towel on every office clerk's desk, if you turned it over, would reveal an exhibition of his signatures. Because even he knows that a person's signature reflects their character. 2 or 3 small, quick serifs, followed by a broad, thick line from left to right beneath it, with a date finer than the serifs, and at the end of the thick, unbroken line, a large circle intersected by a diagonal line, all done with great ceremony. Of course, this was also a kind of practice for becoming a minister, and only now, as principal, did I understand the simplicity of the matter. Before, I couldn't comprehend how one could rise from managing a school or being a simple office employee to becoming a minister, or even aspire to it. Half a yard of ready-made signatures, each representing a personality, then half a yard of smooth, slick talk that could coax a snake out of its hole or lick everything clean, and a face to match. Not just one type, 12 types, exactly like a set of tongs, each for a specific task. With one, you could lift a fish out of water and scale it. With another, I was lost in these thoughts, signing the report cards one by one when suddenly my eyes fell on a familiar name. The name of that colonel's son, whom I had made the head of the Parent-Teacher Association. He was in the 6th grade, dressed more stylishly and neatly pressed than the teachers, and only by virtue of his father's insignia was he absent once or twice a week or late every day. And since his father was the head of the association, it was clear the disciplinarian didn't bother him much either. I looked into his grades. They were all average, with no room for criticism. The conduct grade, which had to be given once at the end of the year, offered no pretext. So what should I do to... How strange. And it suddenly occurred to me that from the beginning of the year until now, I had been judging the school children solely based on their father's financial status.
Exactly like this colonel's son, who by virtue of his father's connections, didn't study. I realized that throughout this time, those with poorer fathers had seemed to me more intelligent, more teachable, and with brighter eyes, while those whose fathers were well off seemed slower, duller, more phlegmatic, and more disappointing. Of course, the disciplinarian had nothing to do with these matters. He followed a law he had established for himself in the course of his work, exactly as he behaved with this very colonel's son. He overlooked one, came down hard on another, and 2 days later, it was the opposite. In short, it was a mix of fear and hope, and that was how the school kept running. But it seemed I had already predetermined my judgment of the children, and how fortunate it was that the grades were not in my control, and the one that was belonged to the end of the year. I had heard that in military schools, they once gave grades based on height, and now I saw that here. If it were up to me, I would give grades based on the father's wealth. And the funny thing was that with this behavior, I thought I was combating poverty. And now I was realizing that this was a kind of justification for poverty, not a condemnation of it. I despised the wealth of others because it caused the poverty of these water bearers and gardeners, and that was why I opposed it. But was I doing the right thing within the 4 walls of the school? The most ridiculous thing is for someone to try to reform a situation, but within a realm no larger than the tip of their nose. And my school, this realm of my activity, wasn't even the tip of my nose. It ended right there in my mind. In a situation arranged by others, the school had ceased to be even a geographical issue for me. This way, after 5 or 6 months, I realized my reasoning was not rational. It was emotional. I had heard from 2 or 3 other sources that the disciplinarian had taken those few tomans, and now I reached the conclusion. This is the atonement for the sin you committed. That was simply how the school kept running. His practical harshness compensated for my emotional weaknesses. And that was why, overall, I couldn't dismiss him. He was a man of action. He got things done and moved forward. In life and in every task. Every step he took had a purpose.
and he turned a blind eye to other aspects of the matter. That was why he succeeded. And I couldn't, because I wasn't a principal at all. I couldn't be one. Anyway, I carefully and cautiously dried the colonel's son's report card, which had grown damp under my hand, and the signature I placed under it was so poorly written and ridiculous that it reminded me of our new janitor's signature. The colonel must have been exasperated, wondering why such an uneducated person with such handwriting and signature had been made the school principal.
After all, even a colonel knows that a person's signature reflects their character.
The next part of this story will be uploaded tomorrow. What you will hear in the next episode. Have you ever met someone who seemed happier inside prison than outside of it? Looking for entertainment? On this channel, we share Iranian poems, stories, and podcasts in different languages for you. If you are interested in Iranian literature, culture, and tales, this is the best place for you.